Welcome. My name is Brian Oliver, and this is my wife, Sara.
Sara Oliver.
And we're doing a podcast. Our podcast is called Conversations. And what we're doing is we're going to be having conversations. We're going to be sharing with you conversations that we have between each other. You know, we're going to let y'all peer into our lives and allow you to just hear some conversations that probably should be had as parents, as adults, in your personal household. We came up with that concept, and we thought it was a good concept. What you think, baby?
Yep, I think it's so true. One of the things that I hear a lot when I tell people about conversations that you and I have is just that, I never thought to talk about that, or I never thought that I could talk to my spouse about that, or how do you talk to your kids about that? How do you answer those kinds of questions? So given that, I feel like, it's time to take this show on the road.
Time to take the show on the road.
Get to the streets.
Here we go. So today we're going to be talking about expectations versus what?
Reality.
Reality in marriage.
The marriage edition.
The marriage edition. Yes, there will be several marriage editions, but this will be our first marriage edition, dealing with expectations versus reality, because that is a big thing nowadays. What you think?
Mm-hmm, definitely. People have their own expectations and their own ideas, and then there's a lot of discontentment and confusion when they get into a marriage and then it's not working out like they thought that it would, and they can't figure out why.
They cannot figure out why. One of the things that me and my wife have identified and we talked about was the premise of the marriage. When you first got married, what was you thinking? The expectations was, for me, was, oh man, I'm gonna get me a fine girl. She gonna be shaped like a hourglass. She gonna have long hair, green eyes, gray eyes, or brown eyes. She's gonna have a big butt.
Long legs.
That was my choice. That was my expectations. But when I got married, she does have brown eyes, and her hair was very short, and her legs are short. But I did get the butt.
You scored on, okay, say 2 out of 5.
Right, 2 out of 5. So, the whole thing with expectations is a very, very big topic. What did you think when you was going to get married, baby? What was you thinking about?
What was I thinking about? That was a while ago now, huh?
Right, when it comes to a man. Matter of fact, we've been married for how long?
14
years. And when we first started out, back in, when we got married in 2004. Mm-hmm. So back in 2003, what was you thinking about when you was going to get married? Because I know you wanted to get married.
Yeah. I had always wanted to be married, and I just... my expectation was that I would marry someone with, a sense of adventure, and that we were just going to, it was going to work out to where we could do a lot of really, fun things and important things together as well as separately. And I do feel like that part has been true. Yeah. So as far as something that I expected that wasn't necessarily reality, is that the question on the table?
Yes, that's the question on the table. I'm about to get the answer now.
Let's see.
Tell me your inner secrets.
Well, I think one thing that I kind of had always heard. So one thing for sure was the whole cooking thing. You have to cook every night, and you have to make all these meals, and everything has to be elaborate. And
that's a great expectation.
That is a great expectation, right? And that is an expectation, especially people of color, right? Latino women. I mean, that's the thing that you do. But one thing that was, and at the time, which it's not all that different now, but at the time I was working 12-hour shifts and in the dialysis unit, and not getting home until 7:30 at night, and then I would feel some type of guilt because I didn't cook or I didn't have the energy to cook. And so one thing that was really surprising to me was that for you personally, you were always like, it's okay. Like, I'm easy. I can make a sandwich. Like, I'll be happy to have a bowl of cereal. Like, so that whole conversation of like the guilt that I was feeling was not coming from you. It was coming from, the sort of the built-in things that we've always seen. But that wasn't necessarily the case in this like individual sense.
So you would say that the expectation was that you do for your family, and when you didn't, the guilt actually came from those expectations that were built inside of you. Yeah. But the reality of it was she got off easy because she got an easy husband.
Right. And although it's not that you would have turned down an elaborate meal or that you wouldn't have enjoyed it, but you were not, that wasn't something that was like a hard, fast rule for you of, of like, this is my expectation every night, So I think sort of unraveling that whole thing for us in our personal relationship was just sort of accepting the fact that you weren't looking for all the pomp and circumstance of, a 5-course meal every time or even, 3 or 4 times a week. Like that wasn't something that was a make it or break it thing for you.
Right. And I mean, these are things that we need to talk about as couples, especially when people are dating. These are things that you need to talk about because what your mama and your daddy did together may not equate with what you and your spouse or person that you're about to get engaged with and get married to. It may not equate to that.
Right.
My mama cooked every night. Matter of fact, when my dad got off from work at 12 o'clock from the shipyard, my mom drove him home. They got home about 12:20, 12:30. And then she cooked for my dad. In the wee hours, as they say in the country, in the wee hours of the morning, she cooked every night for my dad. And check this out, people. This is the beautiful thing. If I had asked my wife to cook for me at 12:30 a.m. in the morning when I got off from work, if I had a job like that, she would have did it.
I would have done it.
She would have did it. But I didn't require that. I didn't ask for that. And that wasn't an expectation. Although I saw that was not an expectation in my marriage. I didn't take that on. Matter of fact, I didn't like my dad doing that to my mom because I thought that was kind of wrong and everything. So I guess that's why.
Because your mom still had to get, after cooking a meal for him at 1 in the morning, then she still had to get up and go to her own job in the morning.
Like 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning.
And your dad, was able to sleep longer because he was working like that later shift. And it was, kind of the same thing in my household where my dad was a musician like you. And although his gigs were, a little different in the fact that, he was playing at parties and, in bars and whatnot. So, late night sets. And so he would get home, 2, 3 in the morning or whatever. And my mom would get up. I do have memories of my mom getting up out the bed, making fresh tortillas and, all that kind of, like, all of that at that point. So, yeah, that is definitely something that I grew up seeing in practice as well.
Yeah. So expectations versus reality. We have a website. No, we don't have a website.
We don't have a website.
We got YouTube. We got Instagram, and I believe we're going to have Facebook, whatever. But whatever social media that we're on, I want you to write in the comments. I want you to write what some of your expectations were, what some of your realities are. And I want you to kind of share, because we're going to share it. We're going to come back to this a little later in some of our podcasts.
Well, we did do a little bit of legwork a few weeks ago. We did kind of do a poll. So I do have a few pictures or screenshots that I have of expectations versus reality from then. So we can talk about those too.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to post that because, some people think that, when I get my wife, we're going to be naked every night and it's going to be sex all the time. And, we're going to have all these kind of things going on. And then when you get in reality, you be like, man, I am beat. All I want to do is go to sleep. What? You won't? No, not tonight. That's the reality.
But speaking of that, though, and this is something that we've talked about before, too, because that was an expectation that I had, too, was like, oh, well, men, they want sex all the time and no matter what. And, it's going to be, they want sex all of the time. So for me, that was kind of something that was surprising because you did, but you didn't, you know, like, you know, you do want, and so one of the things, another thing we've talked about expectation versus reality on the same topic is just how, like, you know, sometimes we'll be laying there in bed at night and we're both like, man, it sure would be nice to kind of have that right now. But I don't feel like doing all that work.
Like, man, that's a lot of work. Ooh, shoot.
A lot of work. Like, it's just not, you know.
Why don't we just talk about it? This show be nice.
Right. But, you know, so for me, I felt like the odd duck because I felt like, you know, I seemed to have a little bit more of a drive than you did. And I remember us having conversations about that. I just lost the thought of what I was going to say.
So we did have conversations about it. And that's an important thing when it comes to bridging that gap. When it comes to expectations versus reality, you bridge that gap by having conversations. That's what keeps the marriage together.
Yeah.
That's what lets the other person, the other partner know that, hey, this is what's going on with me and this is why it's going on. You know, and I just want you to know about it. When people know about stuff, then they know how to govern themselves. They know what to do with themselves. But if the other person don't know, she might think that I don't like her.
Right.
I don't want to be with her. No, I'm just tired. You know, or I got some things on my mind. One thing I had to find out, and I found this out the hard way, it's kind of funny. My wife told me, she said, don't do the bills before you go to bed.
Right. Please.
Don't go to bed thinking about payments and strategies and what we're going to pay down first and all that kind of stuff. Because I have a tendency of doing things at night. I was a night owl at one time.
Right.
Not so much now.
Not so much anymore.
But, you know, she said, don't do the bills because that's on my mind when I go to bed.
Right.
And that's not a great thing to go to bed with. Worrying about, well, not even worrying, but just got it on your mind.
Yeah, because that's not, you know, bills are not really
it's not
an
sexy.
Aphrodisiac, right? It's not gonna like increase your libido in any kind of way. It's like you don't get, you know, in the mood when I say, hey, how about that American Express? How about that Amex bill? It's looking real nice, ain't it?
Yeah, that thing pretty high, ain't it? Yeah.
Right. And then especially, you know, when we were having that conversation, it was, you know, pretty early on in our marriage and you know, as any other couple, you know, when you're first starting out and stuff, it takes a minute to kind of get going. And so there was a little more stress surrounding paying bills and if we were going to have enough to pay the bills. And it was around the time when we had we were, I think, in Texas and we were having to pay for daycare for the first time. There were all these new expenses and then, you know, lower wages at the time in Texas versus California. So, you know, it wasn't necessarily an easy time financially. So then having that fresh on your mind when you came to bed was sort of counterproductive.
Just so everybody knows, if you see me looking down at my tablet, I'm not playing a video game. I'm actually working the cameras because we don't have a cameraman yet.
Low budget. But guess what? The information that you're going to get and the conversation that you're going to receive out of this is going to be priceless. We'll have one soon. So going back to the whole sex part, aside from our own thing, so when I started talking to, you know, girlfriends and married and friends who were married and kind of talking about the same thing, like kind of just venting a little bit, like, man, I feel like I'm always the one who's initiating things, or like I feel like I'm always the one who's sort of hounding you, you know. And a lot of the women that I talked to were experiencing the same thing, which was the women seemed to be the ones with a healthier, more robust appetite, where the men were just kind of laid back healthy? About it, you know, you know, healthier, a little more ramped up, you know. So that's you know,
my background be like them hot women, but you know, that's life. Sometimes, especially when you're younger, you perceive things a little differently. You know what I'm saying? What we thought before we were married, how things was going down. That's not the way it is. You know what I'm saying? And so it's good to find out these things. That's why it's good for parents to talk to their kids. Because when you talk to your kids, you give them the real deal.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
You give them the real deal. They don't have to get the fantasy of how things should be. Because, little boys, they'll talk amongst one another. I was talking to my son the other day, and I was like, man, you and your friends say some of the stupidest stuff. Y'all be like, y'all be like talking to each other, woo, 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 woo. Yeah, you said that, man. Yeah, you did that.
That was amazing.
They be like, what are y'all doing? What are y'all talking about? Craziness. That's because when you're growing up, you in this fantasy world or you in this real small bubble and you think that that's all it is. That's all it is. And a lot of kids grow up like that.
Yeah.
Most kids probably grow up like that. But the reality of it is that your parents should be sharing truth, not just their opinion, not just what they heard their parents say, but there is a truth out there in the world. You should share with your kids about what have happened in history, what they have taken out of history. You know what I'm saying? You should share with your kids. This is how a real woman's going to act when you get her. This is how you should treat a real woman. Am I saying it right or am I saying it wrong?
No, you are. It's important to that's part of our job, as parents, but we don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole because that's going into parenting. We got to focus.
We'll get there in a minute.
Right. We'll do parenting is a whole nother situation. It's a whole nother episode or 5 or 6.
Compared to these crazy kids nowadays. Anyways, don't forget.
Go ahead.
This program is called Conversations
with
Brian and
Sara Oliver.
You see, we're going to get this straight. I'm going to say with Brian, and then she's going to come in like 1 second, and Sara, and then we both going to say Oliver. Okay, it's all about having fun. It's all about getting things out there, and we want to include you in the mix. So I want everybody to spread the word. Conversations with Brian
and Sara Oliver. Oops.
Let's try that again. Let's try that again. All right. Okay, here we go. So we want everybody to get y'all getting the live version. We want everybody to join in. We want y'all to participate. We want you to like the page. We want you to share the page. Our whole deal is called Conversations with Brian
and Sara Oliver.
There we go.
That's what's up.
That's it. You slayed that one.
You did that.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna want you to share that page and give us your feedback. We want to see what y'all got. We got so many more different topics that we're going to be talking about in our conversation. We talk a lot. Me and my wife talk a lot. Matter of fact, we talk all day. Now, this is kind of weird. I say weird, but it's normal. It should be normal. But me and my wife, for the 14 years that we've been together, we text each other all day. We call each other on our breaks. How many of y'all do that? Somebody comment down in the page. How many of y'all text your wife all day? Tell her little things. I like you. I love you. What you doing? I'm thinking about you. We call each other on our breaks. We send each other pictures of ourselves.
Memes.
Memes and stuff like that.
Memes are a very important part of conversation.
Memes, emojis, all day long. We stay in contact. Why? Because we're a team. We're a couple.
And we like each other.
Right. I mean, I think, and help me out, baby. Yeah. I think that it's boring being in a marriage and you had all these expectations. Some were met. The reality, some were not met. And then you go a whole day and don't say nothing to your wife till you get home around 6 or 7. Cook, eat, go to bed.
Right.
That's boring.
Right.
How much time do y'all have to get with each other? And so in the beginning of our marriage, we set that expectation and made it a reality. We didn't let it stay in fantasy world. We made that a reality. What are some other things that we made a reality? Let me think. What you got? That we made a reality that we expected from each other or wanted to. We brought an expectation into the marriage and then we made it a reality. That was one of them.
Right. I think another thing that you, it was something that you said a lot in the beginning and then I got on board with it was just kind of keeping things light at home. Because you face so much out in the world, as far as, stress and, things are just crazy, like people and drama and, work situations and kids. And, there's lots of pressure and stress in the world. And so it was his thing, and then, like I said, I kind of got on board with it eventually. Okay, let me stop. It was a thing.
Should I
where,
tell
like,
the truth?
What? Yeah, you can.
She wanted me to fuss at her.
No,
she wanted me to holler.
That's not what it was.
Why you don't fuss? Why you don't holler?
We can get back to that in a minute. But when it comes to the light thing, let me digress. Well, it's just because there's so much stress and pressure in the world. So when we come home, we don't want to bring that same or like recreate that same atmosphere within the confines of our home. So like when we come home, we want to be able to, leave everything else out there and come home and just have fun, relax, laugh, talk, and just kind of forget about outside things. And to be able to just still have fun with each other.
And that we do. All that foolishness that's going on in this world, gotta leave that outside. And me and my wife, I want to say we've had disagreements in our marriage. Not a lot. We had a few. But I got my first time to raise my voice at my wife. For real, raise my voice. Because I got a big one. First time to raise my wife at my voice. I've never done it. Never held my hand up, bust her in her lip, hit her upside her head. I can't say the same for the kids, but we'll get to the kids later, she said.
That is another.
Because I have raised my voice up at them.
Right.
But my wife never in the 14 years. Comment on the social media and let us know, do you have the same testimony? 14 years and no argument. One thing we did though, check this out. One thing, and I love this. One thing that we do though, when we have a disagreement, we come together and we get close to each other. I'm gonna get close to this mic like we do. We get close, we look at each other and we talk it out. We talk it out. I don't raise my voice. She don't raise her voice.
I might raise my voice a little bit more than you do.
Yeah, a little bit more, because, the Mexicans, they a little feisty, them Latino women.
We're going to take it there.
But all jokes aside, we stay there. We work whatever we're going to work out. Whatever we can't work out, we don't beat it out. We don't hash it out. We'll come back to it. Because guess what? We got many more years to do what we need to do. And so we come back to it, revisit it, where we're at with it, where our opinions, values, strategies, are we going to get rid of it? Are we not going to get rid of it? What are we going to do with this? But we're going to do something with it, And that is one thing that I have definitely appreciated in our relationship, because we know and that every marriage is not like that. Boy, Friday, my bishop used to say Friday and Saturday, boy. People they're gonna be beating up each other and throwing each other down the stairs.
Right.
And that's happening. It's happening. So, and that's another thing. If you saw your parents beating each other up, don't let your expectation before you get married to do something different. And let that expectation turn into a reality, because you don't have to do what your parents did. They knew what they knew and they did what they did, but that doesn't have to be your testimony.
Right.
My mom and dad had some stuff going on, and the stuff that I didn't like in their marriage, I didn't take into my marriage. The stuff that I did like in their marriage, I took into my marriage, and then I borrowed from other marriages that I saw to make mine a much greater. I left them with their bad, but I took the good that I saw.
Yeah.
An important thing.
Yeah.
An important thing. What were some of the things when you were growing up? What were some of the things that you saw that you liked?
That from my parents, or
parents or other people or whoever.
So one thing that I do think is really important is just even if you don't necessarily agree with your spouse at the time, like in public, is not necessarily always like you can disagree without being disrespectful. And so I feel like, that's something that's important that I saw was like just making sure that you give that sort of like preferential treatment, maybe. Is that, I'm not sure if that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
I like preferential treatment.
But, giving that sort of place of honor to your teammate, right? Because when you get married, like that's the whole thing is like now you're a team and you're supposed to be on the same team.
Right.
And, trying to get to the same goal and, working on all of this stuff together so that at the end of the road, you're still together, in all those senses of that word. But so that was kind of something that, and it's not necessarily always something that's easy to do, but being, just being mindful of that and making that, part of, a goal is to, try to keep your spouse in a higher position than other people.
Let that be an expectation that turns into reality. Keeping your spouse in a higher thing than everything else that's going on. Cherish them.
Yeah.
What's wrong with treating your man like he is the only man? What's wrong with treating your woman like she's the only woman? One man, not woman. The only one man. It's very important that you esteem them higher than everybody else.
Yeah.
Let that be a reality in your life. Now I know that there are many different types of marriages. It's not only nowadays, it's not only a heterosexual marriage. There's hierarchies in marriages. There are open marriages. There are all different types of marriages now. But guess what? Somebody needs to be esteemed higher. Somebody has to put the work in. Because the benefit, check this out. You ready? I'm going to drop one. You ready?
Yeah.
The benefit is going to benefit you if you do what you're supposed to do.
Right. All right. Yeah, because if you're on the same team, if it's good for your teammate, then it ultimately benefits you too. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, come on now. Come on now. Who wouldn't want to treat a girl like this with her cute self? Look at her. All dressed up in her colors and things.
Oh, boy.
Right. But it's important. It's important. Expectations versus reality. If you go into the marriage right, 9 times out of 10, that marriage is going to stay. Here go expectation. When I was younger, we used to have, I already told you what type of woman I wanted, in terms of expectations. Another one was I'm going to get a job. I'm going to have an office overlooking the city, and on the 50th floor or something like that. Money, house, all that kind of stuff. Reality don't work like that sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes your expectations can seem like it's reality, but it's just an expectation. It's a fantasy that you want to come true and that you work hard for it to come true. But then when you get that job and you get that office and you get that woman and you get all these things and don't really have no time for yourself or even time to really spend with what you wanted.
Right.
Because your job is so demanding.
Yeah.
You might want to back some of that down, especially nowadays. It didn't used to be this hard. It used to be one man could work and he brought enough money home for the wife and the kids and she stayed at home or whatever, and then everything flip-flopped. Now both parents got to work 2 jobs and do a little tax evasion, especially in California, in order to survive because it's so freaking high out here, the cost of living. Did I say tax evasion? Maybe we don't put this one on. We're gonna bloop that one out. I mean, but
some possible shady dealings on
go
the
ahead.
side.
Exactly. Possible shady dealings. Yeah, let's say that one.
Allegedly.
But it's important. It is so important for you to bring those expectations in your marriage or whatever it is, whether it's how you want your wife to be, how you want your wife to look, how you want your life to form together. All that stuff need to be discussed before you get married. so that you'll know that you're on the same playing field.
Yeah.
If you way up here and she way down here and y'all think it's just going to adjust when you get married, it might, but guess what? It might not.
Right. Well, but especially if it's not communicated.
Right.
Because you can have expectations all day long from another person, but if that's not clearly communicated, then the chances of it happening just spontaneously and just on its own and becoming exactly what you want it to be are pretty small.
Right.
You know, that's something that I feel like was not necessarily addressed or wasn't spoken to before we got married, or just ever, you know, in thinking about relationships is having those conversations like that aren't necessarily fun. They're not necessarily, you know, sexy per se, or like, you know, it's not, you know, it can be uncomfortable to have those kinds of conversations, and it can be uncomfortable to sort of make yourself or allow yourself to be vulnerable to that person and share those things that might be, you know, kind of complicated or just might be a little, you know, touchy or whatever. Just intimate, you know, just having that intimacy of like, this is something that this is my thought. This is how I'm laying it out, you know, before you, and now it's sort of at your mercy in right. Kind of like that.
Here's one thing I told my wife. I had an expectation. One of my expectations, we had a very serious conversation, and I told her, I said, I hope you're not gay. And this is my little bubble that I grew up. Now, there's no disrespect to gay people. If y'all gay, you can be gay. But I didn't want a gay wife with me, you know. Or what do they call the people that like both?
Bisexual?
Yeah, bisexual. I didn't want a bisexual wife. And so I told her, I said, because we were getting serious in our relationship. And I was like, you know, I hope you don't like women, because that's not going to sit well with me. And being the little pistol that she is, she fired back and said, well, I hope you don't like men. That's not going to sit well with me.
Right.
So that was an agreement right there that we both had. I don't go running off with no man. She don't go running off with no woman. Or vice versa. Right. And everything.
And that's, again, you know, like you were saying, I mean, if everybody's relationship is different. So again, that's why it's important to establish those kinds of things in your own marriage and in your own relationship. You know, some people are okay with whether or not, you know, the husband likes men and women both, or, you know, anything, or people of in between or whatever. Like, everybody doesn't have the same sort of stipulations or likes, dislikes, preferences. So again, that's important to have that conversation. Just so that you can be on the same page, and there's not necessarily, I mean, it just kind of, that way it doesn't sneak up on you at an inopportune time. Right. You're like, oh, well, I never knew that about you.
Right. And so that's why we call this particular show Conversations with Brian and
Sara
Oliver. Because this is our household. We letting you in our household because we love you. And so we're going to have many more of these coming. And we hope that you liked our show, and we're going to have some other stuff coming up. You're going to enjoy it. I'm going to have some experts in different fields that I'm going to be interviewing, and we're just going to make it fun. We're just going to let you in our house, because me and my wife don't just talk about marriage. We talk about a lot of stuff, not just politics, not just kids and soccer. You know, we talk about current events and different things. And then we got to teach our kids how they should be in this world, how to navigate, I should say. And let them make up their own mind, but they need to know how to navigate in this world. So it's going to be many things we're going to be coming up and bringing you some great things and all. And it's coming soon.
But you haven't said yet, or maybe I haven't had the chance to ask you yet, something that was an expectation of yours that was different from reality from before we got married.
Expectation of mine? I thought I put a couple of them out there.
Oh, okay, we'll give me one more.
One more expectation that I had of marriage. When I was younger, I did want the whole cooking thing that you mentioned before and everything.
Now it's coming out.
Right, I did want the whole cooking thing. As I got older and I learned how to cook a little bit, I kind of lightened up on the whole cooking thing.
It's all fun and games until you know all the work that goes into it, right?
But just so y'all know, my wife asks me every day what we gonna eat. Every day. 2-3 times a day.
Listen, I know for a fact that my siblings, Michael, Sam, Mary, Andrea, and even nieces, Alyssa, my Linda, like who else? Everybody.
She calling everybody out?
Yeah. Back me up, you guys.
She calling everybody out.
It's an everyday question because, maybe I think we got that from my mom because I remember my mom, oh my God, why do you have to eat all the time?
I can see Mary laughing right now because she knows this is very true. What are we going to do?
It's true. What are you going to eat? Like it's all day, every day. And sometimes, and we laugh about it, or you laugh about it, I guess. But every now and again, I will know what I want specifically.
Mm-hmm, but it's never in the house.
But it's never in the house.
She got to go get it every time.
I have to go to the store.
Every time. Got a refrigerator full, $600 worth of food. We don't have that, so we got to go get it.
Except for.
Right.
The
very thing she need.
Yeah. This is my life, people. This is my life. I don't know what else to say about that.
But you know what? I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Yes.
I wouldn't trade it either, to be honest.
So spread the word. Conversations. We're going to be bringing you some great information. And we're not just going to be rambling on the show. We're going to have data. We're going to have fact. We're going to have lots of great things. So we're looking for you to tune in. How often we going to do it? As often as we can get it done. How about that?
Yeah. But definitely, if you have something that you want to hear us talk about, or you have questions for us, or something that you just want to hear, like what we might have to say about
Email us at
convos@brianandsaraoliver@gmail.com. You can also DM us on Instagram. It's, what is it on Instagram? It's Conversations with Brian and Sarah Oliver. And
there you
it should
go.
be the same on
Facebook.
Conversations with Brian and Sarah Oliver. It might be Sarah L. Oliver. But you'll still find us.
You'll still find us.
And then in editing, Mr. Oliver can magically make it appear.
Boom, it's going to pop up on the screen. I can do like other people do. It's right there. Right there. Click on the X. And do some things like that. And I put something in there, whichever way on the screen. Let me look.
Right.
One of these. Something like that.
You can do it like this.
Right. But you're going to see it. And it's going to be great. And then tell us what you think. Tell us how you feel about what we're doing. And we're going to be doing this for a good little while. So hang in there. Stay with us. Love you. Tell them you love them.
Love you.
And we'll be back.
Love you back.
Love you back.
All right. Okay, wait. Okay, so that's where you're going to edit it, but let's do a little video real quick that we can say we just got done.
Okay, you want me to stop this?
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing you got to know about television is that, are you enjoying Mevo? Yes. Where did you purchase your Mevo? You got to know that when you're at the end and once you stop it,
yeah,
then you got a hold.
Right.
So you just can't just go into something else. Even though we got editing, but you can't just.
You could fade out the audio.
Right.
Okay, so let's just do a quick little video that we can upload. Just say. Okay.
Here we go.
This is
Brian
and Sarah
Oliver.
Woo! And we just got done shooting our first little podcast videos.
Numero uno.
They were going to do. So be looking for that pretty soon. We're going to post it as a podcast and then also as snippets of the video so that you guys can see what we're up to, what we're doing. We're calling it Conversations with
Brian
and Sarah Oliver. And we're just going to talk about it. We talk about anything and everything, anything that comes up, and you guys will just be privy to our sort of private conversations.
Boom.
And come along for the ride.
Come along for the ride.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. All right.